your diamond was a reflection of how much you could afford. Now, with lab-grown diamonds, you can get mostly anything that you want.
Welcome to Old Money, a show dedicated to helping you build the trust fund you wish you were born with. Ladies who lunch, listen up. Life is not about looking rich. I want you to build a life and a legacy that feels rich in every sense of the word. If you're ready to stack cash, talk shop, and trade insider secrets, you're in the right place. These are the new rules to Old Money, so let's get after it. Hello, rich girls. Welcome back to Old Money, where we're building the trust funds we wish we were born with. Today's guest is here to settle one of the greatest debates of modern womanhood. Can lab-grown diamonds be a girl's best friend? If you haven't heard of her yet, you are going to run to follow her on TikTok, where she's documenting everything about building her company, Besette, and she's educating us along the way. I think I have watched every video she's posted. She's truly bringing artistry back to engagement rings. She's designing beautiful pieces for modern couples. We're ready to shop for Christmas. She is originally from California. You can now find her in New York playing with tennis bracelets, gemstones, diamonds, and more. Rich girls, please welcome to the show, Erica Sett, the founder of Besette. Erica, so great to meet you.
Hi, it's great to meet you as well. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. We've had so many questions from the audience, and today we're going to break down this whole lab-grown versus natural diamond debate. And you talk about it so much on TikTok. Can you give us a quick overview of where you've come from, how you started this company? Tell us about you.
It really did start with a geology class. So, like you had mentioned, I'm from California. I had gone to UC Santa Barbara for a year. Wasn't the right fit for me. Moved back home to Carlsbad in California, which is also the world headquarters of the GIA, which we get to later. I had taken a geology class, gone on a field trip. And during that field trip, I learned about how different gemstones were created, how diamonds were created, just like earth in general. And it started this passion of mine. I don't know why. I often joke that diamonds chose me. I did not choose them. It's just something that my brain, for whatever reason, is really interested in. And it kind of like wove itself into my future. But yeah, it's not anything I ever thought I would be doing. I kind of joke it's like a cosmic coming together of things. And now I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It makes sense how all the parts fell together.
I mean, it's a very glamorous life path, and you're so transparent and just so lovely. I have to say, just from the education standpoint, that's one thing. But from a marketing standpoint, the way that you're showcasing and documenting building your business, and the way I'm so invested in the whole tennis bracelet saga with your mom, like trying them on, you do such a good job of showing us what it's like behind the scenes. And it looks so natural. So I love to hear that it's kind of like, this is just your karmic path.
Yeah, honestly, people ask me that too. And I'm like, there's no strategy. I wish there was. Like, I wish it's so funny because I actually had a strategy meeting yesterday with kind of like a mentor. And we were sitting down talking about like, okay, like maybe we should start showing your audience this part of it and that part of it. And I'm like, okay. And it's such a it like takes so much mental energy for me to think about what to create versus TikTok. I just show up and I talk about whatever is on my brain that second, or responding to comments, or maybe something really cool comes across my desk. So it is really organic and natural, which it's a benefit for me. But at the same time, I wish I had a little bit more strategy and I need some help in that realm of like, okay, where do we kind of take this next and grow and whatnot?
Well, you told me this is the first podcast that you've ever been on. So I'm just like saying, you're doing it all right. I found you. More people are going to find you over time. And I hope that the rich girls come flocking to you, because from a diamond perspective, it's so interesting. But if most of our rich girls are entrepreneurs, if you are looking for inspiration on what to do, go look at what Erica's doing, because she's crushing it. So back to your history. I also want to say too, you know that I'm in San Diego, but I actually lived in Carlsbad for 5 years, which is such a small world. And I know a lot of our listeners, a lot of my friends are in Carlsbad, and I didn't even know the headquarters of the GIA were there. So like, what is the GIA? What do you have to do with the GIA? Tell us about that.
So the GIA is the Gemological Institute of America, and they are the ones who came up with the 4Cs. So the way that we evaluate diamonds really stems from the GIA. They are like a third-party institute. They don't sell diamonds. They simply just educate people. There's the education side of it. And then there's the diamond grading side of it and gemstone grading side of it. And there's a little bit more in there as well, but really they exist to provide quality grades to diamonds located in Carlsbad. So random.
So random.
If you're
Yeah.
driving on the 5 freeway right off of Cannon, they have like a massive diamond on their building. I think you can see it from the highway, but yeah, I'm not sure.
I've driven past that 1,000 times, never noticed. I'll probably see it next time I go by. But so tell me this, does every diamond in the world go through GIA to get rated before it goes to get put in a ring or a diamond or a necklace or whatever?
No, it doesn't. So there are a bunch of different places where your diamond can be graded. And the whole
Oh,
reason why grades exist is because we want to be able to tell the end consumer what this diamond is, right? Because let's say that diamond didn't come from a grade and I have a diamond in my hand and I'm going to sell that to a client. And I'm like, this is a D color, VS1. And then I sell that to them with those specs, but it actually doesn't have those specs. So this you have a third party come in, say, this is the quality of the diamond, and then that's going to set the pricing for that diamond. So not every diamond goes through the GIA. There's other institutions. The GIA is just, in my opinion, the most reputable. And if you're buying a natural diamond, I highly recommend you buy a GIA graded natural diamond. When it comes to lab grown, there's, a few different options, but GIA reports are expensive. So if you are a miner or if you're a grower of diamonds, sending a diamond to the IGI is another grading lab, that's going to be more affordable for you than sending it to the GIA.
interesting. Okay. So you talked about this briefly, but break it down for us. The 4 C's, there's 4 C's, not 5 C's. How many C's is there?
Four
Four
C's.
C's. Okay. What are they?
So you have color. Everyone knows color, right? Pretty straightforward. The presence of color or like the lack of presence of color is what's going to set your color grade. So a D color is going to be the highest color grade that a diamond can get. That's going to mean it's the most white. There's no like yellow in there, no brown. And then as you start to get those different colors in there, that's where you'll get different color grades. And it goes all the way down from D to Z.
Okay.
Why didn't it start at A? I have no, I
Great
don't
point.
know.
Great point.
Yeah. So you have color. And a D color diamond or closer to D, if you're looking at the alphabet, is going to be more expensive than a Z color diamond. So that's how it influences your pricing.
Okay.
You have clarity. So clarity is going to be all of the little inclusions and different things happening with that diamond. The higher the clarity, the more valuable the diamond. So it starts at flawless. That means nothing going on with that diamond. It's just pure carbon. It's the most prestigious diamond you can have. And it goes all the way down to, I think it's like an I2 or an I3. I'll have to check, but it goes all the way down to like very included. And again, kind of your different metrics you would use to explain what that diamond is, the
Right.
quality of it. Color, cut. So you have cut. Cut. Okay, so cut is a little tricky. GIA will grade round diamonds for cut. It won't give cut grades to other shapes. But with a round diamond, there's certain proportions and just like overall symmetry that's ideal for that diamond. And it'll be given a cut grade. That one's like less, I would say it's like less prominent when you're looking at like diamonds as a whole.
Sure.
And then the final C is carat weight, which again, straightforward, how much it weighs.
So there's so many things in there. I know we could talk about this could be like its own podcast episode. And I learned so much from, recently going through the process with my fiance of like figuring it all out. And one of the things that I found so interesting was all of the nuances because like I've heard of the 4 C's before, but I have a brushed gold ring and I had to kind of get in a fight with our jeweler that I didn't want a two-tone ring because I have I don't know how to call it, like a very colorless diamond. And they're like, if you get a gold ring, it's going to change the color and you should get two tones. So we went back and forth on that. And then as it relates to the size of the diamond and the carat weight, well, some of the sizes, it was like a more shallow diamond, like the cut was more steep. There is so much nuance to it. I actually left the diamond picking to my fiance. I said, I want no part of this. Like you figure that out because I'm not a technical person. I'm a vibe person. So like, what advice do you have for people when they're looking at a diamond? Like, how do you know what the right one is?
Honestly, trust your vibes.
Okay.
Trust the vibes of the diamond, trust your gut and work with someone you trust. I think people come to me because I am so critical when it comes to diamonds. And so I think I mean, I don't know. I need to go like ask people why they come to me, but I am not I'm not going to bring you a diamond that's ugly. I'm just
Okay.
not.
Love it. Yeah.
So, and there's people that will come to me and say, like, hey, I only want a VVS1 clarity, which is a really high clarity grade. And I'll come back and say, hey, I don't necessarily recommend that because there could be a beautiful diamond that is colorless. It's in the carat weight range, it's in the ratio. So, ratio is like how long it is that you're looking for. And we're going to eliminate a lot of really great options if we really hone in on just like, I want top, 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 top.
Right.
So, the balance between optimizing for your C's, but also optimizing for the way that it looks. And yeah, you're going to be the one, your eyeballs are the most important because you are going to spend the most time looking at that diamond. So at the end of you need to like it. You need to like what it looks like.
And I think what's really interesting is like, I mean, there's a lot of the focus of the conversations on engagement rings, which you design so many of, but there's so many other diamond products out there. So, like, your criteria for what type of diamonds you put in, like a tennis bracelet or tennis necklace or earrings, might be different than an engagement ring, right?
So what do you mean necessarily by that? Like if we're going to talk like tennis bracelets or like pave, which are like the tiny, tiny, tiny little diamonds or like earrings.
I mean, my question was always about inclusions. First of all, I'm blind as a bat. Okay. So, like, if you give me something with inclusion, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I'm like, oh, it sparkles. I love it. But, like,
That's
if you
great.
have like an inclusion in a ring that you're like staring at on your hand versus an
Yeah.
inclusion in like an earring or in a set of diamonds that are strung together on a necklace, like, are the tolerances a little different, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And this will be like a big topic when you're looking at natural diamonds versus lab grown diamonds, because when you're looking at natural diamond jewelry pieces like tennis bracelets or the pave, etc., they'll tend to use lower quality goods to hit certain price points.
Got it. Okay.
It makes sense because you
Yeah.
really can't see those tiny details. I mean, not to get too technical, but if you compare a high quality lab grown tennis necklace to like a SI, so slightly included. So basically, with where I'm getting is that the price point might be the same between a lab grown and a natural, but the lab grown diamonds are going to be much higher with all of those four C's compared to a natural option. Because if you had the same grades on the natural that you did the lab, that would be like exorbitantly expensive.
Okay, so I totally get you. And I think it's a perfect segue. We have to get into this great debate about lab grown versus natural. But before we do that, I'd love to have you take us back a little bit to understand, again, as a marketer, I find this to be fascinating, like the history of the marketing of diamonds and why all of this, I don't know, importance has been put on natural diamonds and how the lab markets disrupted that.
Okay, where do we start?
I don't know. Like, all I know is like De Beers is the best marketing company in the world. So, like,
Yeah.
start with that.
If you just take it back to the fundamental roots of diamonds, we have in our culture, every person who's going to get engaged and get married, there's a cultural norm that you are going to have a diamond on your finger. So that's demand, right? And that was driven largely by De Beers to increase the demand for diamonds. Now, when De Beers was doing this marketing campaign, lab grown diamonds didn't exist. Natural diamonds were the only option. And it was successful. But now we're living in a really unique time where we all have options on what we're going to be purchasing and, more importantly, how we're going to be spending our money. And now it's like this huge war between the two. It feels like a war
Yeah.
between the two options. And it's just fascinating. That's why I have a TikTok account because it just fascinates me.
So, what is a lab grown diamond versus a natural diamond?
A lab grown diamond is going to be a diamond that is created in a lab environment. So you have two different types of ways that you can grow a lab grown diamond. You have CVD, which stands for chemical vapor deposition, and then you have HPHT, which stands for high pressure, high temperature. Let me take a step back. In both of these scenarios, you're going to have a diamond seed crystal that is then transformed into your lab grown diamond. With a lab grown diamond, they're pretty good at controlling the elements to create nice looking diamonds. It's pretty efficient, inexpensive. there's really no limit to how many can be created, right? A natural diamond is a diamond that is found in earth. It was created by earth. It has to be mined to get it onto your finger. It needs to be mined from the ground. So when we're talking about natural diamonds, we're talking about diamonds that came from the earth, that were formed in earth. And then when we're talking about lab grown diamonds, we're talking about diamonds that were created by humans.
Okay. And so one of the pros for lab grown is that there's no question about the that it's ethically sourced, right? Because there's been so much drama around this, the blood diamond story. And
Yeah.
I don't even really know. And I'd love for you to educate us. Is that still an issue? Is there ethical ways to get natural diamonds? What does that look like?
With natural diamonds, there's a lot of issues surrounding natural diamonds. So, kind of going back to my background, how I got started in this. After I left community college, I ended up doing a pre-med major at UCSD, and my major was global health. And that's where I really started studying conflict around natural resources. And a big part of that, I spent learning about diamonds, specifically in
Wow.
Africa, and how that impacted communities. So I approached diamond from this really interesting angle, and I had no skin in the game. I Lab grown diamonds weren't really a thing at this point. I was just fascinated by kind of Western culture's desire and that demand for diamonds, and then the people behind the scenes bringing that to us and what was happening all the way to the root of that and kind of exploring the supply chain. So, yes, to go back to your question and to talk about the ethical issues, there are still humanitarian issues that are happening, I would argue, on a daily basis when it surrounds diamonds. Now, a lot of people say blood diamonds aren't really a thing anymore. We have the Kimberley process. The reality is there's a lot of issues with the Kimberley process. There's a lot of loopholes with the Kimberley process. Also, 30 to 35% of our diamonds are coming from Russia. And a lot of people are arguing those are conflict diamonds.
Oh, wow.
But Russia is a part of the Kimberley process. So it becomes very nuanced and complicated. There are ethical places to source diamonds. There are places where we know that so when you look at all the issues around diamond mining and you look at all the benefits, right? There are places where we can source diamonds where the benefits are outweighing the negatives.
Okay.
And that's a net positive thing, right? And there's still going to be downsides to mining diamonds, but at least the benefits for humanity are outweighing those negatives. There's different calculations that researchers will look at to determine that. But tracking, just diamond tracing in general, is very, very difficult to do. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about rocks. We're talking about rough that's coming out of the ground. It's such a complicated supply chain to take all of these loose, rough diamonds and get them through processing and then get them sorted and cut and then passed along to a wholesaler and then to a jeweler and then your finger. The supply chain is so nuanced and complicated. And it is nearly impossible to determine the exact origin of a natural diamond.
I think it's so interesting too, because, we're talking about, I'm like, how do you select the right diamond? And you're like, the vibes, and it represents your love and all these things. And it feels like for so long, people used this totem of representation of love and purity and specialness with no concern of where it came from or any questions about the ethical nature of how it was mined or the people that are behind the scenes. And I think what you're doing that's so interesting is bringing that conversation to light, being like, not only are there ways to get more ethically sourced diamonds, but here's another alternative. And let's dispel some of the stigma, so to speak, on this lab grown option. Because for me, I find that considering all of the things, it's the new rules of old money, right? We're not just buying stuff at any cost and not caring about where it came from, especially our generation, like millennials and Gen Z. We care so much about where things are coming from and that things are being done ethically behind the scenes. So I'd love you to start helping us understand more about why lab grown diamonds have been persecuted in this industry. And is it just the natural diamond suppliers that are running that program? Or what's the deal with lab grown? Why don't people love it?
I don't know. I think people do love lab grown diamonds. I think that there's just a lot of misinformation on both sides. And, it's funny because when a client comes to me, I will source them a natural diamond and I will source them a lab grown diamond. I am not in a place where I'm going to be like, lab grown diamonds are the best option for you, hands down. Natural diamonds suck. I personally have chosen to not go onto either side, but it's interesting because a lot of people, I had a comment the other day that was like, we can't listen to anything you say because you're trying to push your lab grown diamond agenda. And I was like, am I like a congressman?
Right.
What? Like, it's not that
I'm just
serious.
a
But
girl.
I know, I'm just a little girl on the internet playing with diamonds. It's interesting because I think a lot of people think that I only focus on lab grown diamonds because I'm dispelling so much misinformation. And, I think we're in a really interesting time with social media as well because consumers are smart. Consumers do the research. I think we're living in a much more transparent society than ever before, not just with diamonds, with everything.
Yeah.
And I think that the diamond industry has always been a bit hazy and confusing for consumers. And now that people are becoming more educated, they're asking questions that a lot of your older jewelers or people who've been in the business for a while are just like, they're not comfortable answering that, or they've always
Right.
kind of been stuck in their ways. And so you're kind of starting to see this transition of people who are adapting to a new clientele and people who are continuing to serve the industry in a way that the industry needed to be served 50 years ago. I think most people, and this is where I think it really touches on personal finance, 30 years ago, you didn't have a choice between if you were going to have a natural diamond or a lab grown diamond, or you could do a different gemstone, right? But if you were going to do a diamond, your diamond was a reflection of how much you could afford. Now, with lab grown diamonds, you can get mostly anything that you want, and you can get what you want based on the style that you like and the size that complements your finger. It's a different approach to buying an engagement ring. And I'm all for that. I think that's great. I'm not going to tell you go natural diamond. And if you have $10,000, I'm not going to be like, oh, look at this beautiful 1 carat. If your heart wants a 4 carat emerald, and we can do that with lab grown, like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's an expensive purchase. It's a huge financial decision for people to make. And you need to get something that you love. So trust your heart, trust your gut, get an option that works for you, whether that's a natural diamond or a lab grown diamond. I'm here to give you the information and guide you on your journey for either side.
I appreciate that so much because the jeweler that we worked with, we were exploring lab grown diamonds. I'm very interested in it. And I want to get back to some of this misinformation and have you speak about that. But our jeweler was like, we don't work with lab grown diamonds, like almost kind of treating them as if they were like lesser than or dirty. Like we just don't do that. But
Yeah.
it's crazy because we picked a diamond from them. So, like, what if one of the options was lab grown? It was an interesting conversation. So, let's talk about some of this misinformation. I think one of the things that people are really interested in is the investment, right? Debunking this word investment, like saying that lab grown diamonds won't hold their investment like a natural one would. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Think about it from like a commodity standpoint. Lab grown diamonds are man made. We can make them in infinite quantities. As a result, if you're going to be reselling your lab grown diamond, you're going to be competing against all of the wholesale diamonds that are being pumped out on a daily basis. So, just from like a supply and demand standpoint, yes, there's a lot of different reasons why people choose lab grown, right? Not everyone is solely focused on the financial aspect of it. That just tends to be the biggest aspect, in my opinion, when working with couples. Some people do have huge budgets
Yeah.
and they'll decide to go for like an ethical route or because it just like they don't place as much importance on having a natural diamond. Like I've had every scenario you can imagine. Do not buy a lab grown diamond with the assumption or thought that there's going to be some sort of inherent resale value. On the flip side, though, your natural diamond, unfortunately, also does not have a very strong resale value. There's going to be something there, right?
Right.
Unlike lab grown diamond, but both options, when people talk about diamonds, whether it's lab grown or natural as an investment, I'm always like, let me break out my calculator. Let's start doing some math.
Is there a like ratio where you can say, like, with the similar specs, you can expect lab grown diamonds to be a certain percentage less, or does it vary? Like, are they always like at least 50% less than a comparable natural diamond?
Yeah, I would say so. But also, it just totally depends on where you're buying it from and what those markups look like and where that person is sourcing their diamonds from. I've talked a little bit about this on my platform, but not all lab grown diamonds cost the same behind the scenes. You have suppliers who are pumping them out in mass volumes, and the diamond quality just isn't that great. And then you have suppliers who have focused for a very long time on very expensive natural diamonds, and they have very skilled cutters, and they have ethical business practices, and all of their workers are paid a fair wage. And as a result, their price per carat on a lab grown diamond might be triple or quadruple the price per carat on a different supplier who's mass producing and
That makes
doesn't
sense.
have all of that. So behind the scenes, I see a lot of rhetoric around, oh my gosh, it's so crazy that this person's charging this much for a lab grown diamond. It should cost X amount, or it costs $50 per carat behind the scenes. In some places it does. In some places it doesn't.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a very broad spectrum behind the scenes. At this point, I think even for those like ethical places that you can get your lab grown diamonds is really high quality cuts, great suppliers. It's definitely a fraction of a natural diamond.
Okay. And so one of the arguments against lab grown diamonds is people saying that it's essentially not honest, or you're not telling the truth because you're kind of representing that you have a diamond on your hand, but it's lab grown. But at the end of the day, they're like actually structurally the same thing, right?
Yeah. So they're identical aside from lab grown diamonds may display different growth patterns that a natural diamond doesn't have. So
Oh,
either way, you're going to need special equipment to detect a natural diamond from a lab grown diamond. So one of the ways is we can look at the growth patterns. With natural diamonds, there's certain type of inclusions that don't exist within lab grown diamonds because they weren't grown in the dirt. I don't know if you know this, but on TikTok, they'll like automatically ban comments if it's like
mm.
they detect bullying in the comments. So every now and then I'll go in and I'll just review the comments that TikTok is automatically blocked. And I'm like, oh, such lovely people that exist.
Oh my gosh. And then people are probably like, oh my God, Erica's deleting comments. And
Yes,
you're like, no, literally, TikTok does it for me.
yes, that has actually happened. It's only happened once where someone like went into my comment section and was like, "Oh my god, she's deleting all of her comments." And I had to respond and I was like, "Actually, like you've just posted so many spammy contents that TikTok blocked them
They don't
on
like
your
you.
behalf. But I'm also now going to block you because I don't like you." So
100%.
glad we cleared it
I
up.
love it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the stance I take is having a factual based approach to both sides. I am an open book on the pros and cons of lab grown. I'm an open book on the pros and cons of natural. It is not my place to tell you or to tell a client what they should be getting and passing that judgment on to them. I come from the place of like, you want a beautiful engagement ring. Let's talk through your options and let's figure out what's going to work best for you. And that's it. End of story.
And I think these conversations are so important too, because again, being a smart consumer, like I'm not in the diamond industry. I don't know what's going on over there. All you hear is the headlines, right? Like, ugh, lab grown diamonds. What are people doing? Well, where does that messaging come from? If it's coming from the natural diamond, I don't know, Institute of the World, like obviously they're going to be a little anti lab grown because
Yeah,
it's hurting their business. So
absolutely.
I think being a smart consumer is just kind of understanding the players in the game and like where those messages are coming
Yeah,
from.
absolutely. So there actually is, it's not quite the Natural Diamond Institute of America, but it is called,
I just made that
yeah,
up.
but you're close. It's called the Natural
Yeah.
Diamond Council. So the Natural Diamond Council is basically a conglomerate funded by different natural diamond companies. And they focus on this like one central message of natural diamonds. So if you've ever seen any sort of like rhetoric around only natural diamonds or different marketing campaigns that are really focusing high level on a natural diamond over a lab grown diamond, that's generally coming from the Natural Diamond Council. So there still very much is this marketing engine behind natural diamonds. But on the flip side, there's also this marketing engine behind lab grown diamonds. And you see a lot of greenwashing and just this idea that lab grown diamonds are these like perfect alternative. And we've all been blessed on earth to have a lab grown diamond come from the sky and it solves all of our problems. Like, let's be for real. Both
Yeah.
options have their issues. But yeah, Natural Diamond Council they're a big proponent on preserving the economic viability of the natural diamond industry. That's why they exist. Yeah.
That makes sense. And one of the things too that I also had never considered before I saw it on one of your videos, but the purpose, for example, of like using lab grown in specific instances, like in that tennis necklace, in that tennis bracelet, where you want things to look super consistent and uniform. And you get that with lab grown, right?
Yeah. The difference in price between a high quality lab grown and a lower quality lab grown is so minimal that the end consumer is not really going to see that impact, or it won't deter them from purchasing whatever product it is. If someone does, if like a jeweler like myself, for example, decides to make something with a higher quality lab grown diamond, the end consumer is going to be really happy with that product. But the prices can really swing quite dramatically when it comes to natural. But when you're looking at like smaller natural diamonds, those are so inexpensive, like those lower quality ones, that it's, I don't know.
Negligible.
It's so, yeah, it's so small.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit. And oh, let me go back to something I had written a note down. You also mentioned something earlier, and maybe I misheard you, but did you say that you could do a lab grown gemstone as well?
Yes, there are lab grown gemstones. So there's not as big of a market for lab grown gemstones. I don't think we have as much technology going on behind the scenes to really like push out some great options, but you can get lab grown sapphire, lab grown emerald. But in
Wow.
some cases, it's more affordable to actually just have the natural versions of those gemstones, like peridot. I always say that wrong. Whatever, however you say it. I always say peridot, but that's not the way they actually pronounce it. That is more affordable to mine than to produce in a lab.
Amazing. You have had some beautiful gemstones on your page recently. My mom had a aquamarine
Yeah.
engagement ring with diamonds around it. Are you seeing that come back as a trend as gemstones as or like what are the trends in engagement rings right now? Like what are you seeing come next?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm like a big enough force in the industry to like really have a pulse on trends. But I think just kind of consuming content in the space, I'm seeing a lot of like unique organic shapes. So people are stepping away from a traditional solitaire, moving into something that's maybe a bit more gold heavy. And the diamond is really playing into that design versus being like the standout star of the design. Um, there's a lot of talk on the industry side that as lab grown diamonds continue to drop in price, consumers are going to move towards colored gemstones or they're going to move back to natural diamonds. It's interesting because I've brought this up on my account and it was really interesting that people were like, yeah, if lab grown diamonds were $50, I'd still get one. I'd still get one for my engagement ring. So I think it's only a matter of time to see really where consumers decide to put their money, because that's like ultimately the best indicator of
Yeah.
like what's going to happen is what are people actually converting on. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm sitting here just like you, kind of being like, what do people want?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I'll tell you what I want. I want that tennis bracelet that you're working on with your
Oh
mom
my
right now. And I'm obsessed with, I just watched the one the other day where she was like testing the weight and which one she liked. And then the favorite one she picked was your competitor. Like, tell us about this story. Like, what are you working on? This is fascinating. Yeah, your mom totally blew it.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I already knew it wasn't the best product possible. So my whole thing, like, I don't think we talked about this, but the whole reason why I ended up starting the company was because I I have a like bougie taste a little bit. Okay. I get
Love
myself
that
in
for us.
trouble. I'll
Yes.
be walking down Fifth Avenue. Next thing I know, I'm walking with a Chanel bag and I'm like, how did this happen? How did this happen?
Oops.
Okay. So I kind of my backstory for people who don't know, I just left my job at Google. So I was like corporate in an office, making pretty good tech salary. I don't have children, have a couple dogs. And so, I have disposable income. So I've been known to do a little damage from time to time. So I get myself in trouble, but I do have a strong investment portfolio. So I'm like, okay, every now and then can drop a
You're in good company,
yeah,
girl. You're in
yeah.
good company.
So anyway, so my whole thing was like, it would be so wonderful if I could have Cartier quality, these high fashion house quality and the beautiful pieces that they're creating. But like, why can't we just do this with lab grown diamonds? Like, I don't
Yeah.
care that it came from the ground. And I am someone that has studied at the GIA. I love rocks. I love geology. It's such a passion of mine. And even I'm like, I don't really care that much that it came from the ground, but I still want beautiful, high quality pieces of jewelry. And so that's when I was like, what if I created that? What if I could figure out where and how the highest quality pieces are being manufactured? And we can do that with beautiful lab grown diamonds. And that's what I'm doing. So that's kind of like the backstory to my approach with all of that.
I want you to talk about the way you're designing this tennis bracelet because I'm obsessed with like
Mhm.
you're so meticulous about like the clasp and how many times you can open and close it and what it feels like. Tell us about this process. It's so in depth.
Yeah, that tennis bracelet's going to really give me like a little heart attack. Um, so backstory on that. My whole okay, now I remember where I was going with this. As you can tell, I'm like a little bunny rabbit, just like jumping around with little
I love
ideas.
it. You're so great.
So I want high quality pieces that look high quality, that feel high quality, that are high quality, but that don't necessarily cost you $10,000. So the idea with this tennis bracelet was, traditional tennis bracelets cost thousands of dollars, not because of the diamonds, largely because of the craftsmanship and the gold. And then, of course, you have, your stone on top of that. So when you use alternative materials, in this case, I'm using sterling silver plated with rhodium. It's a really great option that looks stunning. And, I compare it, I'll have friends, family, whatever, I'll compare it. I'll be like, okay, which one's the diamond one? Which one's the moissanite option? And they can't tell the difference. So how do I bring
Amazing.
this product to consumers that looks beautiful and you can kind of like dip your toe into the fine jewelry world? You can see if maybe you want to invest in a diamond tennis bracelet long term, but at the price point of $300. And what you're seeing, this is actually kind of popular right now behind the scenes. So you have brands like Dorsey, you have Missouri, who are creating these sterling silver pieces with sapphire. But sapphire doesn't have the same fire and brilliance as a diamond. And in my opinion, it looks a bit dull and it's a less
Okay.
superior stone to be using compared to a diamond. So I created this bracelet with moissanite, and moissanite side by side in those smaller stones looks nearly identical to a diamond. Not necessarily the case as they get bigger. You can start to see, some differences, but when you're looking just side by side between the two, moissanite is a wonderful, phenomenal option. It's durable. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. But my standards for quality are so high that it's so difficult. It's so challenging to find because it's more of like fast fashion, quote unquote, when it comes to jewelry. So to find a manufacturing partner that's going to take the same level of care, attention to detail that, my fine jewelry production partners are using, it just like doesn't really exist. So trying to kind of find that has been really challenging.
It's fascinating. And I, again, just to all of the entrepreneurs that are listening, please go watch what she's doing because she's just taking you through the process, but in seeing the way that she approaches the design and the quality and how she's talking about, how many times she tested the class, you don't have to read website copy that says, we take the highest care. No, 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 no. Like literally watch her. She's doing it on camera. She's
Yeah.
showing you the day to day. I think it's so incredible what you're doing, Erica. And I would just like one more little topic I want to dive into since we're on the topic of entrepreneurship before we let you go today is how the heck did you start this company? Like, did you have a hookup in the diamond industry? Did you have a mentor? Like, did you just start buying stones? Like, how did you do this?
Yeah. So I was selling dinnerware to my family when I was 8 before dinner time. So
Stop.
we were laying the foundation for entrepreneurship at a very young age. And I had mentioned earlier in the show that I was pre-med, I was going to go to medical school, but something in my gut was just telling me like this isn't right. This feels like what the universe needs me to be doing, not what I need to be doing. And I always felt in my gut that I wanted to create something. I just didn't know what that was. So I decided not to go the medical school route, ended up going into marketing. That led me to Google, where I spent 5 years working with, small business tech entrepreneurs. And that whole time, like I would try things. So I had a personal finance blog. I think I told you this.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
because I'm super passionate about personal finance, which is like a whole other topic. And I realized blogging was not for me. What else did I try to do? There's been a lot of random things that I've kind of like dabbled in. But then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I have this amazing idea for handbags. This is so funny now to talk about it, but I wanted to make Hermes beautiful quality level handbags, but I wanted them to be extremely functional. So think like if you walked into an Apple store to get a tech laptop bag, but Hermes made it. Like I wanted something that was like absolutely beautiful, stunning, but also had unique design features that thought about me wearing it daily, that could fit my laptop, that had a component for pens and paper and like maybe a water bottle thing. Like Hermes doesn't care about any of that. Like you're not going to get that little
No.
Birkin. But I wanted that because I was going to the office every single day. So I was like deep in this handbag situation. I had hired a designer. I was like talking through production. I was starting to pick out my materials, starting to build out a website, had probably invested close to like maybe 10 to 15,000 on the handbag company. And in the process of the handbag company, everyone in my life was like, why are you starting a handbag company when you never stop talking about diamonds? Makes no sense. Because diamonds was always like this like fun little thing, like fun little hobby. I kind of had this like moment. I was on a dog walk with my partner and we were talking about the handbag company. And I was like, maybe I should just make an engagement ring or like maybe I should try to just make some jewelry and like just dabble and see. And like, I'm definitely still doing the handbag company. Like that's my number one focus. But like, let me just see what this looks like on the side. And I remember like so distinctly walking with him talking about this and he was like, "Yeah, just give it a couple months. See what you can figure out and then you'll have some clarity." And I got the clarity. Here I am. So, yeah, I mean, there's no now that I'm like sitting talking to you cuz I haven't really like thought through how it all happened. It really just was a lot of like emailing people, testing things out. I think I've spent about 20 to 30,000 to launch the business.
It's incredible what you've built. And are you like designing things on CAD and then sending them to a partner to get them made? Like, are you in a workshop? Like, what does your day to day look like?
Yeah, so it's different. I think most entrepreneurs will say like my day is always different. It's a lot of emails. It's not very glamorous. Honestly just a lot of communication with clients, back and forth. And then I usually have a running list of who needs what in terms of diamonds. So it's a lot of time in the diamond district, looking at various options. And then I usually compile a couple of options for clients, take photos of them, have to put those into folder, have to send over an email that communicates everything, answer any questions. And then I work with the client to kind of design it out. Then I'll pivot into the production studio and be like, okay, this is like the end vision. And I'll work with the production coordinators to figure out kind of like the plan of action. So I do really custom and bespoke settings. Nothing is made from like anything stock. Everything is built from the ground up. And that starts with the CAD process. So no, I do not create the CADs. I work with a very skilled technical CAD designer who builds CADs for production, which is very different from like building a CAD for just like visual purposes. So yeah, it's like working with production. And then every now and then I'll make TikTok videos.
Well, I've learned just so much from you. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on and talk to us. I have 5 rapid fire rich girl questions that I want to get to as well. But before we jump into that, is there anything like overall you want people to know about the diamond industry, what to expect, what it's like to work with you? Any thoughts you have to round it out?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say when you're approaching such a huge financial decision, don't be pressured into one direction or the other. It's okay to take the time to think about what makes the most sense for you and your partner and think through the financial goals that you have. I see so many couples that feel pressured into making massive financial decisions and they'll put other financial priorities on the back burner. And I don't love that. As someone who has a passion for personal finance, like that sucks at times where I'm like, I want to like teach people about personal finance at the same time that I'm like selling them a diamond, right? So yeah, my biggest piece of advice is like do what is best for you. Kind of ignore all of the noise behind the scenes. I think financial literacy and just like financial health is so important. Make the decision best for you.
Ugh, that's the music to my ears. I love that we have that in common, that passion of like making the right decision, regardless of ignoring what perceived judgment you might have. Like, do what's right for you.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Okay, let's jump into our rapid fire rich girl questions. First thing that comes to mind for 5 of these questions, just to get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
What's your favorite place, Erica, to vacation?
Anywhere with like clear water, warm, clear water. Not murky water because I don't want to get bit by a shark. I need to know if the shark's coming. So it needs to be clear.
Totally fair.
So like what comes to
Totally
mind,
fair.
like Anguilla, something like that,
I love it. What's the best investment you ever made?
Myself. Myself, yeah. Talking about how much money I've spent with this business and then seeing kind of like where I'm at now, I would say myself. And then after that, S&P 500.
Yes, sister. I love it. What's your guilty pleasure?
Walking down Fifth Avenue and whipping out my credit card.
What's the best thing this is not one of the previously scheduled questions, but any good purchases you've made recently?
I have to be completely honest with you. So since I left my job at Google, I haven't been taking a salary. I don't draw a salary from the business. So I have been like conserving my cash flow. Maybe that's why I'm talking so much about Chanel boutiques because I'm just like wanting to get in there and
Craving
list
it.
it. Like I need to like scratch the itch. But no, honestly, most of my money just goes straight back into the business. Samples. You saw the Moissanite drama. Yeah, it's all business related.
Same. I love that. It's still an investment in you, though. So it's just so beautiful to see. Okay, the next question is advice you'd give to 21-year-old you.
I would say have the confidence to do it. And the only thing you need to do is to just start. Don't overthink it. Just do it. The 30-year-old you also has no idea what she's doing. Like,
So true.
so, you just kind of stop caring what people think about you and you just do it. If I could go back in time and tell myself, I would say, like, listen, we're never going to figure this out. The only way you're going to figure it out is just to start doing it. So you might as well start now.
Oh, such good advice, everybody. Like, take a note, write it on a post it. Okay. And the last question, Erica, what in your life makes you feel the wealthiest?
I think getting to wake up every day and work towards my own future and having like full control over that, it's extremely stressful, but it's extremely rewarding. And having that independence and that freedom is just incredible. I love it.
I love that for you. I told everyone that they need to go follow you on TikTok ASAP. We're going to link to all of your stuff in the show notes, but tell us more about where we can find you online.
Yes. So if you want to come to the drama of TikTok, jump into my comment section. You can find me on TikTok. It's just Erica Sett, first and last name. And then my company is Besette NYC on Instagram. I just need some more time to post on there, or I need to hire someone. But yeah, TikTok, I think, is where I'm hanging out the most these days.
I love it. Erica, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and educate and inspire us today. It was so nice to meet you finally, like face to face, instead of being one of those crazy people in your comments. But I'm leaving love, not hate, I promise.
No, I love it. It's 90% love, 10% not, but it's fine. It's all part of the game.
Thanks, Erica. And thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Feeling rich? I hope so. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Old Money. If you have questions you want answered, email me at oldmoneypodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on social. We are at Old Money Podcast and I am at your service. If this episode spoke to you, inspired you, helped you, if you took a single note, it would mean the world to me if you could please just take a minute to rate and review the podcast. And if you're not doing so already, subscribe. And if you have friends who like getting rich, please share this episode with them, even if it's just on your Instagram story. And I'd love you more than Jeff Bezos loves Amazon Prime. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Remember, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your tax professional, and I'm not your financial advisor. The content presented in this podcast is intended to entertain, educate, inspire, and support listeners in their personal and professional development and does not constitute business, financial, or legal advice. In addition to that, this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services.